Douglas C. Mintz, a distinguished judge of the Connecticut Superior Court, served on the Connecticut Judicial Branch Law Library Advisory Committee as a chairman from April 6, 2010 through December 31, 2019. And whereas Judge Mintz was a chairman of the Law Library Advisory Committee who recognized the value of the services and resources of the Judicial Branch courthouse law libraries, and whereas Judge Mintz was a strong advocate on behalf of the law libraries throughout his years of service and directed the committee's efforts to oversee and guide the planning of the future of the Connecticut Judicial Branch law libraries. Now, therefore, the Connecticut Judicial Branch Law Library Advisory Committee wishes to express its deep appreciation for the valuable contributions of Judge Mintz, of his time and talent to the work of the committee. His efforts on behalf of the Connecticut Judicial Branch courthouse law libraries will benefit judges, attorneys, and the people of our state for years to come. Dated this 6th day of November 2020, and that is from us as the Law Library Committee. I propose that we vote to approve this resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Bill Condetta.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Okay. And then we also have one for Teresa Miguel Stearns, which says pretty much the same thing, except her service was, she served from July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2020 as a dedicated member of the Law Library Advisory Committee. And the committee wishes to express its deep appreciation for Teresa Miguel Stearns' valuable contributions of time and talent to the work of the committee. And that is also a resolution dated 6th of November 2020 on behalf of this committee. I propose that we approve this resolution recognizing Teresa Miguel Stearns. Do I have a second?
Bill
Second.
Condetta, second. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Bill. All right, Ann Doherty will give us an update on law library operations, budget, staffing levels, library schedule, staff activities, and initiatives.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you, or see your initials. I will start with the impact of COVID-19. That obviously is the topic of the day. This is how we experienced the change in operations with judicial. On March 16th, I submitted a recommendation to administration that all the libraries close to the public immediately due to what we felt was a very real concern for the safety of the frontline staff dealing with the public. So the recommendation was accepted and the libraries closed immediately. Staff was notified of the directive to close and to remain home until further notice. In order to keep the remote services operating, these are two remote reference services that we had managed for a number of years. The two supervising law librarians worked with me to structure a schedule for the three of us to continue to respond to the remote email reference services that we managed. As the branch closed courthouses and went to skeleton work staff, a tsunami of questions were submitted to the email services. And I have to praise my two supervising law librarians for keeping up. It was a monumental task for three people to keep those services going. But then, as the numbers increased, so did the difficulty in responding, because we were responsible for keeping up to date with what was changing with the branch, what was changing that the governor had announced that impacted the branch. So finally, through the good services of judicial IT, more of our staff were able to get remote access to their work computer and were able to come to our rescue, so to speak. So we got some more people on staff able to respond to the questions, and it became a much more manageable situation. But we also maintained other services. Two of my staff librarians volunteered to keep publishing the library service news blog, which provided timely notice of any release from the Supreme or appellate courts. Also, the weekly Connecticut Law Journal, and they kept up with any updates and changes to the branch's operation. And then the New Britain Law Librarian collaborated with our External Affairs Unit, and they published an online feature which was Frequently Asked Questions, COVID-19, and Court Business. And he kept up with that and took any changes and amended it constantly so that what was posted on our webpage and through External Affairs was as current as possible. Then all staff that were working from home were directed to monitor the judicial branch homepage for any kind of new or updated information, because they were responsible for replying to people's questions, and we stressed that they needed to be up to date on what was going on in order to keep these people as properly informed as we could. We learned a lot responding to these questions. We certainly expanded our knowledge of the operations of the judicial branch. Finally, staff did return to the courthouse libraries the first week in August. And initially, we had them working 2 days a week. And what they were doing was working their way through the backlog of materials that had arrived in the courthouse and just were there waiting for them. So that took a considerable amount of time to wade through, properly process, properly get things into the system, and also take care of any kind of invoices that were required to be paid. Finally, on September 14, all staff came back 5 days a week. We are still, to this day, not open to the public, so they were able again to continue to work, continue to keep all of our services going. And then we added to that actual telephone contact in the libraries themselves, and we are also offering reference service through our live chat feature. So we're up and running at as many possible places that we can assist anyone, both attorneys and self-reps. And it's amazing how many attorneys are saying they miss us. So, wow, we didn't realize how many people were relying on us until we weren't there anymore. So we're doing our best to keep everybody as properly informed as we can. Another big task that we have taken on is to plan for the protocols and the protections that will be necessary for us to have before patrons are returned to the libraries, and the eventual resumption of the in-library services. So all staff took the time to draw diagrams, think about where they work, how the patron would be approaching them, and we submitted to the Judicial Branch Facilities Unit our plans for plexiglass protection so that all staff would feel safe, and also the patrons would be safe as they came into the library. So that was submitted on October 23 to the Facilities Unit, and we will be working with them as they see their way clear to work with us to and with the local building maintenance units who will actually be doing the installs. But we recognize the fact that we are in line with quite a few offices that need this type of plexiglass installation. So we don't have any estimated time of when that all will be accomplished. But we will continue to keep planning for the protocols and the rules that will have to be in place also once patrons are coming into the library, so that everybody is feeling safe and is safe. One thing that I'm sure most of you are aware happened earlier this week, Judicial has asked us to structure staff so that they are coming in to the workplace on a schedule of every other week. So half of the staff is remaining home and the other half is in the building. That is to cut down on the number of individuals in any given courthouse. So we have instituted that, and our librarians have been given a schedule. And all of them, except for a few, have now the capability of working from home. Those individual librarians who don't have the connectivity or the equipment to work from home will be coming into the libraries every day. So we will be full staff located in various places. So that's it in terms of the COVID impact. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I do want to say I feel very proud of the way the librarians reacted and were flexible and nimble and gave it the best effort they could, given all the circumstances. So then we'll go on to the budget.
And Judge Johnson has a question.
Yes, Judge, I'm sorry, didn't see that. Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm curious as to the plexiglass installation. Is there also going to be plexiglass kind of dividing the patrons of the library amongst themselves, separating them as they continue to do their research and their work?
Yes, Your Honor, wherever that is necessary. Every library is of a different size and a different configuration. So we definitely took that into consideration for a library that would need that. I will give my example of New Haven, which is a very large library, and we have planned for the patron workstations, every other workstation. So there will be a more limited number of computers available for the patron to use so that we can keep them at a distance. That should work. There are other libraries where they have clusters of computers, and yes, we requested plexiglass to divide and also to perhaps not use every computer in the cluster. We will remove chairs. We have not decided yet whether the stacks will be open or closed. As the different information comes to us, as the country responds and has different approaches to how to handle things, we will try to keep up with that. So do we have a bigger concern with the print materials that initially were there back in March and April? I'm not so sure, but I will say my staff still does quarantine what comes in, and they won't process it until they at least give it a 24-hour sit. This is the incoming mail. And I fully support whatever they feel is the comfort level that they want to adopt. So again, initially we were thinking the stacks would be closed and open to the librarians only. The librarians would retrieve whatever book material a patron wanted. Patron would use it. It would go on a quarantine table and not be shared again with another individual till 24 hours had passed. So we're working on those protocols that will be in place before the patron actually arrives in the library. So everybody's going to be trained, everybody will know how to handle things, and it will be well posted. Does that answer your question, Your Honor?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
And I have a question about usage, but I think you might be answering it. So do I understand that the libraries are not open to the public?
That's correct. No, none of them.
But people can come in and request something, like show up to get it?
If there is somebody in the building, we have tried to work with the clerk's offices and the court service center and said if they're there, they can call on their cell phone, which most people do have. Tell us what you want. Yes, we will get it to the front door, and the copy will be there, or whatever the scan is that is appropriate for the whatever they have asked for. So we do that. That is not the norm. It doesn't happen that frequently, but we certainly would be doing that. Most of our contact comes from the Ask a Librarian email service and the Judicial Branch Ask Us a Question email service. So those are two that we play with. And then we have the live chat that is available in 2-hour increments in the morning, and then another 2 hours in the afternoon. And usually what happens with that is the questions are complicated enough that you get their email address and you send them the material after the fact, so that it's a thorough response as opposed to a quick response. It seems to be working very well. We have some individuals that are more difficult than others to deal with, but we have, just kept with it and worked with them. And I do believe we have, for the most part, within the parameters of what a law librarian is supposed to do, get them the information that is helpful for their procedures that they're following.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the next topic that I was going to talk about is the budget. Every year we are asked to do projections in early spring. This year was no different. We made our calculations. Luckily, we got them in just before everything shut down. So that much was accomplished. But since the librarians were not in the libraries from March until August 3rd, we did have a challenge in terms of getting payments for our invoices. Any invoice that came by email to a librarian, we had them send it to me. I was able to take care of it. There are certain parameters that accounts payable requires, original signature being one of them. So I aggregated whatever we could and submitted those invoices for payment. What hurt us was that some invoices did not get paid if they only arrived by paper and there was no other way of their delivery. We didn't get them paid during the fiscal year 20 cycle. And the way the budget allocations work is you are allocated based on how much you spent in the previous fiscal year. So since we were a little shy on the spending end because we had no access to the invoices, we did incur a 5% drop in our budget allocation for fiscal year 21. But we're working through it, and we did calculate, we do have certain contractual obligations, contracts for print and electronics, and once we configured that, we gave each library the amount that they would still have as a discretionary fund. So it's more limited, but we're able to work around that to a large degree by structuring group purchases. So Connecticut materials that every library wants in print, because we have still a fairly good demand for print materials. We have one librarian that works the group purchasing, and he's able to get us a very good discount and a very good shipping charge that is only one time to one location. So we're watching our pennies as best we can, and so far so good. So that's the way we will manage our budget, and hopefully we will at least stay even for the next fiscal year.
Now, Ann, because you weren't able to get those invoices paid, then does that mean the next fiscal year you'll get an increase because those invoices were paid in the following fiscal year?
It did not work that way. We did manage to, because there was still some funds left in the fiscal year 20, accounts payable worked with us and they were able to bring some of that over.
I see. Okay.
So we didn't lose out entirely, but enough of it was not paid that we had to suffer that cut, unfortunately.
Thank you.
And I am sorry, but I'm lost my last page here of my notes, which had the activities. If you don't mind, I'm just going to print one off. I'll be right back. All right. My apologies for that. Okay, so the next topic was staffing levels, which we have had a change in staffing. The New Haven Law Librarian, Michelle Penn, resigned in March, just as everything was closing down, and she took a position with a law firm in Washington, D.C. area, a position as a law librarian. The Stanford Law Librarian, Mike Beetham, who, because of where he lives, has asked to be transferred to New Haven when a position became vacant. So we just accomplished his transfer to New Haven. So he, at the moment, is working 3 days in New Haven and 2 days in Stanford, because Stanford is a large and busy law library. So we couldn't move him for the 5 days until things settle down. But he is now working with that broken schedule. And then back in 2018, the Bridgeport Law Librarian asked to be transferred to Middletown. So that created another vacancy in Bridgeport. So at this point, I have submitted a request for hiring in both Stanford and Bridgeport. The request is there. That is about where it will be for the time being. And then my last comments are on activities. Just to fill you in, we have one supervising law librarian who works with the Access to Justice Commission and libraries. They had been working on creating a public service announcement they were working with the External Affairs Unit. So that had gotten to the point where the script was ready. They were going to do an audio only public service announcement. So as soon as we get back to a more normal business, that will be recorded and be sent out wherever they had planned on it being distributed. The announcement is talking to the public, people that frequent a public library, fostering their awareness of the courthouse assistance services that are available to the public. The New Britain Law Librarian also, he recorded a podcast with Mike Bowler, who is the statewide bar counsel, and actually also monitors and the calendar call page, and he does frequent interviews with different courthouse personnel. So Chris Roy was able to have his recording posted to this mandatory continuing legal ed page, calendar call, and he's talking about the resources and services that the law library provide. Claudia Jaloka, other supervising law librarian, has worked on multiple occasions to collaborate with Judge Support Services Legal Research Unit, providing interactive legal research training sessions for the incoming legal research clerks. And she's accomplished that through Teams. So that was quite an undertaking for her. Two of the librarians have now worked very diligently to learn Teams, and they have worked to present and train the rest of our staff. So we are getting there slowly, but we're getting there so that we have a much better command of using Teams, which will come in very handy as our committees start to get working. And this is going to be their opportunity to communicate with one another. The librarians themselves meet with their supervisors over Teams, either as a group or individually. So we're working very diligently to try to keep everybody feeling they are part of a larger unit. Now all staff has been assigned to take and update revised materials that have been posted to the Law Library Services page. We still feel that this is a valuable resource that is extremely important for the librarians to continue to put their efforts to keep this as updated and as current as possible. And I have to say, they are all working very hard to do that. They are acclimating and adjusting to providing remote reference service to the patrons as opposed to in libraries patrons. has been challenging for them, but they have come to the fore and grasped it and worked with it, and I think have done an admirable job. So I'm, as you can tell, proud of them. And that's pretty much what we've been up to.
And you are always an excellent advocate for your staff. I'm sure they appreciate that. Are there any questions? Okay. And Judge Johnson?
Yes. Ann, is there anything that this committee can do to help you get all of your staff connected remotely?
We are working with the Judge Support IT unit, and those that have a desire to be connected, it will be accomplished. The others have declared that they are much happier coming in every day. So because they don't have internet and they don't have the equipment, we have approved that they come in each day on a normal work schedule. Actually, it is there's only 3 or 4 that are in that category, and it actually helps us to have a steady in the courthouse crew. They are in their libraries only. They do not go throughout the courthouse for any reason except to the mailroom. So they are very cocooned, so to speak, in terms of they do not interact with the public, and they very rarely will interact with any other court personnel when they're in the building. So we feel confident that this should work for all involved. And they have been coming in now every day since mid-September, and we have been very lucky that we have had no incidents of any COVID.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any new business? Any committee member? And if you have not already, if you could just forward to Judge Pearson the strategic plan that we all.
Oh, certainly. Yep. Be happy to.
Because I don't.
Ann.
You're welcome.
And also, I think you sent out something with the revisions or something, whatever it was that we received in November. If you could forward that to Judge Pearson, great. Regarding future meetings, Ann and I discussed this prior to the meeting. I think we should not plan on meeting in the foreseeable future and just see how things shake out. Does anyone have a different idea about that? We've met our statutory requirement, right, for the year.
That is correct, Your Honor.
And then I think I can discuss with Ann when we might meet in 2021, if that, we can do it remotely if we have to, or it just seems futile at this point to plan, except for birthdays, which we have to do. Anyone have a different idea about that? An objection? You must not have enough Zoom meetings. You must want another Microsoft Teams meeting. Ann is shaking her head. Okay. If there is nothing else, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Judge Pearson has seconded that. Excellent. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Stay safe. And
Have a
thank you
good
as always
weekend,
for your
everybody.
hard work.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, Ann.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All of you. Thank you.